What happens when you talk to a nurse or a doctor or a lactation consultant or all of the above, and they say, but the latch looks fine. I don't know why you're in pain. Since the latch looks fine, you probably just have to deal with it and it'll get better eventually. Hey, Mama Bear. Welcome to the Breastfeeding with Confidence podcast. Do you dream of bonding with your baby through exclusive breastfeeding, but worry about breastfeeding pain or low milk supply? Maybe you're struggling with breastfeeding and no one seems to have any answers. I'm Jaimie, doula, international board certified lactation consultant, and mom of 5, and I have been where you are. After working through painful latches, milk supply worries, and postpartum depression, and supporting countless mothers through their breastfeeding journeys for over 8 years, I'm here to tell you breastfeeding doesn't have to be perfect to be positive. Each week, I'll share breastfeeding tips to help you prevent and overcome unexpected breastfeeding challenges so you can actually enjoy bonding with your baby. If you are ready to shut out the toxic whispers of the world, embrace your God-given intuition, and release your inner fierce mama bear, grab some coffee or your favorite herbal tea and let's dive in. I cannot believe we are at the end of 2025. Starting this podcast this year has been such a blessing. I started the podcast in February. So those of you who have a 1-month-old right now, we both conceived our baby at the same time and you just gave birth and I am hitting 9 months of the podcast. So that was a little bit of a cheesy connection, but you get it. You get it. I guess we're at 10 months now. It's just been such an honor to do this. I know we've connected with so many moms. We have reached over 10,000 podcast downloads, which is a huge, it's amazing. I'm tearing up trying to talk about it, but it has been such a blessing. I keep saying that, but it really has been such a blessing to be able to touch so many moms. I am looking forward to what 2026 has in store. I'm planning to continue the podcast for as long as God wants me to. And I know I have some really exciting plans for 2026 that are not necessarily connected with the podcast, but maybe I'll share them with you as they're developing. But I am so excited for this year. And there are going to be so many changes in my life this year. And I know that there's so much that we do not even know what is going to happen. There is so much that is so uncertain, but I just have such a wonderful feeling about this year. And I hope you do too. And if you don't, well, I am here for you and I'm praying for you. As it has to do with motherhood, and this transition into motherhood, today I wanted to go ahead and just share one of my top episodes as a replay from earlier this year that really touches on one of the most common questions and struggles that moms that I talk with are experiencing. And that is, baby, quote, has a good latch, but breastfeeding still hurts. Why? So we're going to talk about what it means if your baby seems to have a good latch, but you still have pain when breastfeeding. What does that mean? We're going to dive into that today. Before we get started, I am going to ask you real quick to go ahead and drop a review for me. It helps people find the podcast. It helps the podcast get seen. And I do this podcast for free. This is a free resource for you. It is a gift of my time. However, it does take a lot of time. So if you can just say thank you by sharing it, that means so much more than you know. Leaving a podcast review, sharing it with a friend. Those little things help the podcast grow. I also want to quickly invite you to go ahead and grab the 5 Mistakes to Avoid When Breastfeeding guide. It is a free download that you can get to learn all of the top 5 mistakes I see new moms make when they start breastfeeding and how you can avoid them or maybe not make them so hard. Sometimes not everything is fully preventable, but you can have tools to navigate those challenges if you do face them. That is littlebearlactation.com/mistakes, MISTAKES. Go ahead and grab that free guide so you can learn how to avoid the top 5 most common breastfeeding mistakes. I want you to imagine that you are trying to breastfeed your baby and this has meant so much to you. And you start breastfeeding and all of a sudden it freaking hurts.
What do you do? Well, if you're like most moms, the first thing you do is like, okay, well, let's fix the latch, right? Well, what happens when you talk to a nurse or a doctor or a lactation consultant or all of the above, and they say, but the latch looks fine. I don't know why you're in pain. Since the latch looks fine, you probably just have to deal with it and it'll get better eventually. This is basically where my story begins with my breastfeeding experience with my oldest. They kept telling me he had a great looking latch and they didn't know why breastfeeding hurt. And this is the story that so many of the mothers that I work with tell me. So I had made a TikTok post about this. I'm no longer on TikTok. So if you're going to all go look for me on TikTok, you'll probably find some old videos, but I can't get back on TikTok because I hastily deleted the app when TikTok died, and then it came back to life. But still can't download it. You can't download it if you deleted it during that time. So yeah, I no longer can be on TikTok, but that's okay. That does not bother me because it is a toxic place. I'm about to tell you just how toxic it is. But I had posted on there about this phenomenon, telling moms if your baby's latch looks good but does not feel good, it is not good. I had so many people come back to me telling me, like, if your baby's latch looks good and you're in pain, then that means you just have to deal with it. It'll eventually get better. So I wanted to talk about that today because I keep getting the same responses on Instagram. So we need to peel this back because you deserve to understand exactly what is going on. Okay. So if your baby has what looks like a deep latch, from the outside, their mouth looks wide open. It includes areola. It doesn't seem like the baby's just on the nipple, but you're still having pain. There can still be a problem with the latch. And I've had some people in the comments on Instagram saying things like, okay, well, I had a lot of pain, but my baby had a good latch. So there was nothing wrong with the latch because the pain eventually got better and I didn't change anything. And that's another reason that I really, really want to talk about this entire phenomenon. We can see part of the latch from the outside, right? We can see, like I said, if their mouth is wide open, if it includes areola, we can see that. What we can't see is what's happening on the inside. We can't see if the baby's tongue is properly extended, elevated, cupping, and doing all of the motions that it needs to do for effective breastfeeding. And if there is one thing out of line, like one little piece is not working the way it's supposed to, you can have pain because your baby is going to compensate for that. And however they compensate often leads to pain. Sometimes it's just a matter of a slight position change to be more supportive of your baby's physiological reflexes and help them feed more efficiently. Sometimes it's a little more deep than that. But what a lot of moms don't realize is over the course of breastfeeding, you and your baby are kind of learning things and you're making adjustments. You're constantly making adjustments. When it's not working, you're making adjustments. So when moms say, like, oh, it hurt for the first 3 weeks and I didn't change anything, but it magically got better, to that I say, no, you definitely changed something. You and your baby both changed something. Over the first few weeks, your baby likely got more postural stability. So that changed. You probably adjusted techniques or positions without even realizing it. You just learned how to hold your baby in more supportive ways. You made small adjustments that were just subconscious and natural, and you figured that out. So something did change. But for other moms, nothing changes, nothing gets better. And it's like, why? So if your baby's latch looks good, but it still hurts, what do we do? Because you can feel really hopeless and broken when everybody's telling you, well, the latch looks fine. I don't know why you're in pain. They might make you feel like you're just sensitive, like you're just broken. Maybe you're just not made for breastfeeding. And none of that is true. I'm here to tell you none of that is true. If there is pain, there is a reason. It could just be a simple adjustment. And no, you don't have to wait weeks for it to get better. Just because some moms say, oh, after a month and a half of breastfeeding pain, it finally got better. And therefore, you need to just accept pain, and pain is just a normal part of the process. That is still not true. That is still not true. Just because it took them 3, 5, 6 weeks to figure out what was wrong and fix it, whether that was consciously or subconsciously, does not mean that you have to sit around and just wait for things to get better and hope and pray and be miserable in the process. Like, that is so much wasted time that you could be enjoying your baby. If I could go back to the first 6 weeks with my son and have somebody tell me when he was a week old that this pain you're feeling is not necessary. And yeah, it looks like he has a good latch, but he absolutely does not if you are in pain and you need to change something or get answers and figure out why there is pain, and then you'll be able to enjoy your baby. I would have paid you $1,000,000. Honestly, like, I guess I wouldn't have because I don't have $1,000,000, but you get my point. I lost so much time getting to know my baby, bonding with my baby. I lost so much time feeling depressed, helpless, confused, alone, and not having answers. And everybody kept telling me, your baby has a good latch. You just need to wait it out. You're just not tough enough. I don't know what's wrong with you, but this is normal. And if you can't hack it, sorry about your luck. Just quit. And that's not okay. It's really not okay. And if that's what somebody has told you or how somebody has made you feel, I want you to know that you can get answers. You can get answers. What we need to do first is not just look at how your baby's latch looks from the outside. We need to look at how your baby's latch is working on the inside. We do that by doing what's called a functional oral examination. So, as a lactation consultant, when I'm working in person with parents, I'll usually go through this process of assessing how the tongue is working. And this is more than just looking, it's more than just having the baby suck my finger for a minute. We do all kinds of range of motion exercises. When I work with parents virtually, we still do this examination. And I love, love, love doing oral function exams with parents virtually because the parents, they're my eyes, my ears, my fingers, right? I walk them through how to do this examination and they end up seeing and feeling and understanding exactly what I will be explaining to them what we're looking for and how to do it. And then I ask them to describe it. And as they start describing it, you can see the connections being made. They start understanding why they're feeling what they're feeling. So we can get to the root cause of the latching issues and the pain. Now, sometimes maybe it's not something with oral function. Maybe it's your baby's alignment. Maybe they were in a really weird position in utero. And so they have a lot of tension and that just needs to be addressed. It's literally, when I tell you, it is as simple as shifting your baby down about 1.5 inches and supporting their head in a different way. That can make all the difference. There's a saying, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Where there's pain, there's a reason. Something is causing that pain. So then you have two options. You can either sit there and deal with the pain and hope it gets better, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. Or you can figure out the cause of the pain and see if there's a solution. Spoiler alert, I'd say 90% of the time, that's a non-scientific number, there is a solution. There is almost always a solution. Sometimes it's an easy, quick solution. Sometimes it's a deeper solution and it takes more effort and time. And I'm not promising you that we'll wave a magic wand and fix the pain. But when we know what's wrong, we can create a plan to fix it. And when we have a plan, we have hope. And when we have hope, we can actually start enjoying breastfeeding. We don't have our peace and our joy and our confidence stolen from us when we have hope. So what we want to do is always go back to basics. First, we're going to work on reflexive physiological latching techniques, okay? And we're going to figure out if it is just something simple. Let's start with the simple stuff first, right? We do not want to make this difficult. We do not want to assume that just because you're having pain, there's a tongue tie and automatically we have to just like go rush into surgery or go see a dentist or ENT. Like, that's not what we need to do. First, we get back to the basics. Let's get a reflexive latch. Let's use a physiological breastfeeding position. Let's be really supportive of our baby's design and work with that design. Because I will be honest with you, a lot of what you have been taught about breastfeeding especially in the hospital breastfeeding classes or from your nursing. A lot of what you see on social media, a lot of that is based in pitting mom and baby against each other. And a lot of people don't even realize it. There's some stuff that I used to promote a long time ago that I look back and I'm like, that probably wasn't the best way to go. And it's even simple things like a cradle hold is really a bottle feeding position. It's not a breastfeeding position, but we've turned it into a breastfeeding position because that's how we're used to seeing babies be fed. So it makes sense to us. So that seems like the most natural and obvious way to feed a baby. But really, there are more natural and more instinctual ways of feeding a baby that are not a cradle hold and that are more supportive of getting a good latch. All right. And then a lot of times babies will need to have some kind of body work to help address the pain that the mom is experiencing. Because a lot of times there is some kind of tension, whether it is related to ties, whether it's related to the baby's position in utero. A lot of times, a little bit of good body work can make a huge difference. Then we have to start looking at things like let's get into oral function, let's monitor oral function for a little bit, see if there's deficiencies there that we need to address. And then if everything checks out with oral function, and I mean a real oral function exam. I don't mean like a 30-second suck test, guys. I'm so serious. An oral function exam takes time. If it's being done right, it takes time. So if anybody, whether it's a lactation consultant, a dentist, a doctor, looked at your baby for less than, honestly, if they looked in your baby's mouth for less than 5 to 15 minutes minimum, they did not do a functional exam. If oral function checks out though, and we're still having pain, then we need to start looking at things like maybe there's vasospasms, and vasospasms can have all kinds of different causes. Maybe you're experiencing a really strong letdown sensation. Maybe you have some like intense inflammation. Sometimes it's really as simple as engorgement being mismanaged and learning how to manage engorgement and milk supply. There are so many different factors to look at, but the very foundation of breastfeeding efficiency, breastfeeding comfort is getting that good latch from the start.
The first step is go ahead and download that 5 mistakes guide I mentioned earlier, littlebearlactation.com/mistakes. Go ahead, download that free guide, and when you do, you will be able to choose your pathway, whether you are pregnant and breastfeeding. If you are pregnant, you will be prompted to take a free breastfeeding class. If you are breastfeeding, you will be given information on how you can book a support call to make sure we're getting answers that are based on you and your baby's needs.
All right, Mama Bear, that is a wrap for today. If this episode helped you feel a little more confident or a little more prepared for breastfeeding, can I ask you a quick favor? Go ahead and leave me a review. It helps other moms find this podcast and join us in this amazing community of fierce and confident Mama Bears. And hey, if you know a friend who could use some encouragement or real talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, and all things motherhood, share this episode with her. You've got this, Mama Bear. Trust your instincts, stay fierce, and I'll catch you in the next episode.